If you would like to earn CPE credit for listening to the show, visit earmarkcpe.com/FPA. Download the app, take a short quiz, and get your CPE certificate. Finally, if you enjoy listening to FP&A Today, please go to your podcast platform of choice, click the subscribe button, and leave a rating and review of the show. And now, on to the show.
From Datarails, this is FP&A Today.
Hello, and welcome to FP&A Today. We're doing something a bit different this week. This special episode is taken from the online event FP&A Con by Datarails. I hosted an absolutely fascinating panel of experts called AI and FP&A, Hype versus Reality. We brought together AI and FP&A experts Nicolas Boucher, Christian Martinez, and Gabriela Gutierrez. It was an incredible discussion with so many great questions from the audience, some interesting polls, and practical experiences about applying AI in FP&A. I loved hosting this panel, and I know you're going to find a lot of value in this broadcast. We talked about some practical applications, ways you can use AI today in FP&A, and our projections for the future of AI in finance, and some guidance on what you can do today to learn how to use these new AI tools. So let's dive in. Welcome to FP&A Con 2024. This is our first session on AI and FP&A, Hype versus Reality. Today, we're going to dive into real-world applications of artificial intelligence and try to separate fact from fiction. Not all fact from fiction, just when it comes to the state of AI today. We'll look at the present and future of AI in financial planning and analysis. I'm Glenn Hopper, the host of FP&A Today and the head of AI research and development at Aventis Advisory Group. I was a startup CFO for 15 years and came up through the FP&A ranks, so I genuinely love all this stuff. I'm also an author and lecturer on AI and its applications in finance and accounting. And I'm proud today to host my esteemed panel of finance and AI experts. We've got Nicolas Boucher, Christian Martinez, and Gabriela Gutierrez. Gabriela is a finance leader, a keynote speaker, and an advocate for financial innovation with 10 years of industry experience. She focuses on strategic financial management, driving growth, and optimizing business performance. She is currently transitioning from local CFO at Teads to founding her own startup called Tabs, which aims to solve some of the biggest problems in finance today using AI. Christian is the Global Finance Analytics Manager for Kraft Heinz, not the CEO, despite our best efforts. And he's also an AI for Finance instructor. He has over 8 years of experience in multinational companies across international markets, including Australia, Mexico, and the Netherlands. He teaches Microsoft Copilot, Python, and advanced ChatGPT for finance. Christian was named among the 30 under 30 in accounting and finance industry in Australia in 2021. He also secured the International Rising Star in Finance Award in 2023 and the EMEA Data Democratizer Award in 2022. Outside of finance and AI, he's a marathon finisher and a world traveler, having explored over 70 countries. Nicolas is a recognized thought leader on finance topics like AI for finance, FP&A, and controlling. Nicolas is also the founder of the AI Finance Club and international companies including Mercedes-Benz, Chanel, Hugo Boss, and KPMG trust Nicolas to train their teams. He has more than 15 years of experience working in senior finance roles. He speaks 3 languages and has lived in 5 different countries. Okay, before we get started, I think we're going to jump into the poll. And the first poll question is, have you used AI in your work previously? And this question we added at the last minute, but we thought it was a good idea to get kind of a level set of where we are. So we'll give everybody a few minutes to answer the poll questions here, and then we'll dive in. Christian, you want to take a guess on what our percentage of people who've used AI in their work previously is going to be?
Yeah, definitely. I'll say 30% have used. That's what I've been seeing in the past.
I have seen this number come up as time goes on. Every month, it seems like there's a slightly higher number. Nicolas and Gabriela, you want to take a guess where we're going to be on who's used it?
Maybe 40%. Let's say 40, 50. If people will say 50, I would be very surprised. But we use also AI for many different use cases that we don't even notice. So yeah, if we would include them, then 50.
I think in my experience, I do a little game when I train people on AI, especially in person. And I put people on a wall. So like imagine a line of 20 people and I ask them to step one foot ahead each time they will say yes. And the first question I ask is, did you ever use ChatGPT or Copilot? And then you have already only 80% of people who step. So you have already 20, 30% who didn't move one step. So they never use it. And that's interesting after to ask why. Then if you ask when you will use it for work, yes or no, then you will have like half of the people will step. But then after when you ask, are you using it every day or every week? Then you'll have 10 and 20% only of people in front. And that's interesting to see after like physically the map of the people and to ask them why they are using it a lot or why they are not using it.
All right, let's see the results here, where we came out. Wow, 47% yes. So this number is coming up every month. It's and also maybe people are self-selecting by joining this webinar too. If you're joining the AI and FP&A, you might be, kind of self-identifying there out of the gates. So, so we had the poll to see where everybody is, how many people have used it and are using it in their daily workflows. But because you guys are out there at the forefront, working with teams, how are you guys seeing finance teams using AI in finance today? And then I guess as a follow-up to that, how do you see them using it in the future? And I guess, Nicolas, let's start with you on this one.
So the thing is, you have, like Gabriela says, a lot of people were using AI before the AI was hype. So it was like banking, it was like big companies with a lot of fraud detection. But now that we all have, since 1.5 years, ChatGPT and Copilot and Gemini, actually it's open to everybody. And the first thing what people do is they write emails. After they have like played around and wrote emails, they get frustrated because they don't know how to use it and they use it like Google. Like that's what I call like the Google method. And if you use it like Google, then you will only get something super generic. And you need to really change your, I will say, your framework, because you have not Google in front of you, but you have like a mini assistant or intelligent trainee, which has read all of the Wikipedia articles and which can process much more data than what you can think. And you need to ask concrete questions. You need to be specific. An example I always do is when you want to write dunning letters, then if you just say dunning letters, you get, oh, here are the 10 ways to recover your money. But if you ask, can you draft for me a dunning letter? You get already a good draft. But then after, if you explain, my client never paid, so how can I really have something to move the needle? Then it will write really like a lawyer with exactly the legal actions. And like in really 1 minute, if you tweak your prompt, you get from having something super generic, and that's where 90% of the people stop, to having something super concrete that even a CFO will have a hard time to write by himself.
How about you, Gabriela?
I would totally agree with Nicolas, and for that I have seen most of the use cases of people using any language model to send emails, to reply to things. But I have also seen for some companies that they are using language models to write policies. So and even policies about using AI. So it's a bit funny. Like you ask the language model, please write me a policy for employees of how to use AI. But for them, it was a really nice use case because the model came up with more edge cases that they wouldn't have thought before. And then they were able to implement it. I think also what is important is to always have the human in the loop. So someone like reading about policy and making sure that it fits to the company, and as well like the feasibility to really prompt again and to ask for changes. It's quite amazing. I mean, also another use case, I would say like predictive analytics and so on, that you could just put your data and ask for questions. Obviously, that comes a bit into the privacy topic, but I think we can discuss that in later details.
Yeah. And actually, Christian, this moves over to you. I want to introduce something that maybe a lot of people haven't seen, and you might be a good one to introduce this. So thinking about the ways that a lot of departments, marketing copy rather, is one thing. But when you're actually, like Gabriela referenced, using it for data analysis, that's something completely different. So I know you've done a lot, including, writing Python and using the data analysis tool. Can you talk specifically to use of that tool for FP&A?
Yeah, definitely. Because I would say that one of the more exciting use cases of artificial intelligence for me in FP&A, it's actually these like machine learning and predictive analytics models. So I think like 10 years ago when I started studying like a master's in data science and finance, that's where I was like used to learn like, okay, how to use programming languages like Python to start doing forecasting, let's say, of sales. And then you needed to really study a lot of time in order to make your first forecast using machine learning. But nowadays, if a team is leveraging in a correct way, like these LLMs, they can basically generate Python code and then implement these machine learning models in order to do forecasting of like sales, revenue, or even identify financial performance drivers. So I think that's one of the barriers that some FP&A teams are breaking right now. And for me, yeah, it's very, very exciting.
I think also, thinking about the data analysis tool and then just the sort of inherent abilities of an LLM. Gabriela, tell me, there's current perceptions and then some misconceptions on AI and FP&A. And one that I always lead with is LLMs aren't inherently good at math. That's not what they're designed for, to do math. Now, obviously, tools like the data analysis tool, it's writing Python under the hood, and it is doing math that way. But so to me, the biggest issue I have with people that I want people to understand when I'm first introducing that, hey, you can use these LLMs in finance and accounting is, but don't get the straight large language model to build you an amortization table, because it's not going to actually do the math unless it's actually writing the, even, simple things like calculating depreciation. If you're just asking the large language model for results, that's not what I'm trusting. So that's the biggest thing I have is there are ways to do this, like Christian said, writing code or using the data analysis tool, but the LLM itself, I'm not going to trust when it's just in line giving me a textual answer. But Gabriela, what do you think are some perceptions and misconceptions and things that people need to understand right now with using AI in finance?
Overall, then the thinking that you could just put all your data and it will give you all the answers would be kind of a misconception that you could. And also if the first answer is not the correct one, because the way how language models work, usually the number of tokens that you would have, a token would be, it could be a word or it could be a mix of a couple of words. They could be misinterpreted. So the straightforward, like you are able to request the prompt, the better would be the result. But also if you include a very large prompt, it would be a bit more difficult for the model to even understand what is the task to do. So also, I would encourage people as well to try more prompting, and I think like people right now, they are even specializing on prompting to really get better results and to get the model to do even more kind of more customized or more precise answers. I will say that would be one of the misconceptions, like really giving all the data and having the best answer on the first try. So that's not happening. Another misconception is that, for example, on the data privacy part, or like they could train with my data and so on. So there are many different like companies with many different terms. So I would also encourage people to kind of like you have the free version and as well you have the paid version. So within your different terms, so on, you can have like also kind of your own cluster, your own data. So like they wouldn't share it unless it is obviously written in their term and conditions. And again, like on the third use case as well, it's, for example, that on the predictive analytics or on more machine learning is that you could just pull all the data again and it could give you the perfect forecast. I think like it needs to be a bit of a trial and error, that you play with many different models and then you choose what are like the best that they fit overall for the use cases, because it's not a one model fit all, but rather it's like going into very specifics and really trying and playing. I always call it trial and error until you find the one.
Christian, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say two things. So like one of the main misconceptions that I have been seeing people having is that LLMs, it's just the only artificial intelligence application that they can use in FP&A. So there are like so many more applications of AI, like as Gabriela was mentioning, like machine learning models and techniques, for example, that are so much more powerful for finance and FP&A. So it's not just like you will go to a ChatGPT and then you ask questions about your financials and so on. Like it's more, again, like you can use ChatGPT to generate Python code that create some financials, either visualization, forecasts, and so on, in another environment. So it can be like Google Colab, it could be Jupyter Notebooks, it can be something else, Azure from Microsoft. And then I think that's the more powerful use case of, let's say, like AI in FP&A.
Yeah, it's funny because, for years, dorks like us have been, using machine learning for classification and regression and fraud detection, all the uses that there have been to it. But the barrier to entry on all that is, well, you have to know Python, or you have to be able to code, and you have to have sort of the data science approach. So now with generative AI, this is a lot of people's first experience with AI. So there's a temptation to put all AI in the box of just what these generative models are. So, I mean, the good news is it's actually, it's kind of democratizing AI. It's making it accessible to more people. But the danger in that is if you don't know how you're using it, you've got a very powerful tool that could give some bad results. Nicolas, what are you saying? What do you think?
It was interesting because a lot of people say AI, and it was like, I think 20, 30 years ago when computer arrived, and people are saying, oh, computer are going to do our work. And when you think about that, it's not the computer who is going to do the work. It's maybe a special program is going to do a special task that before was doing by the human. And AI is the same. You cannot say AI is going to replace us. AI is going to take all over our job. It's more like, okay, if a tool using some AI techniques, so OCR, NLP, machine learning, has access to a part of your data and can on top write, so create, then it can do a part of the work. And if it doesn't have access to all of this, then you and AI is going to do a part of your work faster and better. And so learning about what means AI, what Christian explained, and Gabriela and you as well, what you explain. So learning what it can do, and then learning what you have, what is your current setup, and see how you can connect. The more you will have a connection, like today, OpenAI or last week, they opened the connection with Microsoft and Google Drive, but it's still you have to drop manually and to decide yourself. But companies right now start to have integration within their own company where humans don't have to connect things. They just say, I want to see the sales of last month, and then they get a report in front of them. But you first need that somebody connect that. And people need to figure that out, that it's not AI who is going to do all of this, is a set of AI and a specific program using AI. And that is like a big misconception that you need to train and educate people. And once they understand that, then they know what is possible today. And they also have kind of an idea where they need to go. And also when they are going to select tools, what are the criteria to select those tools?
FP&A Today is brought to you by Datarails, the world's #1 FP&A solution. Datarails is the artificial intelligence-powered financial planning and analysis platform built for Excel users. That's right, you can stay in Excel. But instead of facing hell for every budget, month-end close, or forecast, you can enjoy a paradise of data consolidation, advanced visualization, reporting, and AI capabilities. Plus game-changing insights giving you instant answers and your story created in seconds. Find out why more than 1,000 finance teams use Datarails to uncover their company's real story. Don't replace Excel, embrace Excel. Learn more at datarails.com. Nicolas, you set me up for the perfect transition into our next poll question. So I'm going to throw up the poll right now. For those who are listening only, the poll question is, what is the biggest barrier to AI adoption in your organization's FP&A processes? And our choices here are lack of understanding or awareness, data privacy and security concerns, inaccurate data, budget constraints, lack of skilled personnel, or other. And, while while we're waiting on responses to this poll, I think that Google's latest gaffe from last week or the week before, where it was telling their AI search and enhanced search, whatever they're calling it now, was telling people to eat one small rock a day, to put cheese on, or to put glue on pizza to keep cheese from sliding off, and whatever the absurd things that the AI was kicking out. And Nicolas, to your point, that human in the loop is so important right now. And I understand there's sort of this scientific idea, or this science fiction rather, idea of AI that's going to replace us. But as we're seeing these kinds of issues, that human in the loop stays so important. But if you type the wrong numbers into a calculator, it's not going to give you the right result. Or if you do your order of operations wrong, so this is a tool that we have to know how to use. We as users have to understand how to use it and when to trust it and when not to. So I think, a lot of this lack of trust right now is, well, we're not ready to hand over the reins to AI to run our FP&A department. But if you're using FP&A, or if you're using AI and FP&A, it is giving you a leg up on people who aren't. So it's not AI versus people. It's people using AI versus people who don't. Okay, I've rambled on long enough. Let's see the poll response here. So biggest one, yep, to the point there, lack of understanding or awareness. So people joining stuff like this, that's step one, just to get kind of the broad overview. But I think what I'd like to do before the show's over is talk about, where some people can learn more about AI and how to use it. And I know everyone on this panel has a lot of great resources for that. Data privacy and security, very big. And Gabriela hit on this a little bit with, I always tell people, don't just go to the publicly available interface, ChatGPT 4.0, free for everyone now, if they've rolled it all the way out. But when it's free for everyone, it's kind of like Google. When you're not paying for something, we're getting something from you, and that something from you is the data. So all of your data is being used to train the models. So there's ChatGPT for enterprise, there's closed environments for all these, and that's if anyone is going to use proprietary information, that's where to go with it. So lack of understanding, data privacy and security, inaccurate data, that's that trust era, and we can talk in a little bit about how we can trust more. Budget constraints, I get a little bit. A lot of these now, the pricing is coming down. Another big one is lack of skilled personnel, and that is, we're people who are trying to implement AI today. We're all kind of at that bleeding edge where we're out over our skis a little bit with this. So it's up to the rest of us to kind of reskill and upskill to understand how to use these tools. So very interesting poll results there. So let's talk about, though, for people who are successfully using AI and FP&A today, because I think everybody wants to know, yeah, it sounds great. I get it. I got it to write a limerick for me. It was great at that. It was funny. But how can I actually turn this into my professional workflow? So I do want to talk a little bit about what you guys' experience are of successfully implementing AI and FP&A. And I know, Christian, I think you've got a good story on this. I'd love for you to lead us off if you can.
Yeah, definitely. So what I have been seeing on, let's say, like teams that successfully implement AI is, as someone was commenting on the chat, that training in corporate environment. So they really need to be trained on how to use AI properly. And then there are like so many use cases. For example, the very, I guess, like simple one, but powerful, it's just for forecasting. So a lot of us in FP&A, we need to do forecasts every month, sometimes every like 3 months as well, every year and so on. You can improve your forecast so much more if you use artificial intelligence, either to do like a, let's say, clustering method, that is a machine learning technique in order to segment, let's say, of your different like business units, your customers, and so on, and then implement other algorithm in order to actually predict the sales that you're going to have, the revenue, identifying the top financial drivers, and so on. Those are, I think, the main use cases that people can have, let's say, in forecasting. Then the second one is just around saving time. So a lot of us, especially also in FP&A, we need to either to consolidate files, to merge files, some mappings need to be like done manually and so on. You can use as well AI tools in order to do that for you. So that part of like saving time is the second one.
So I've been trying, like all you guys, I've been trying to push kind of the limits of what generative AI can do. And when 4.0 came out, I was pretty blown away. Speaking of forecasting, I was doing scenario analysis just straight in 4.0. So I had my, 3 years of quarterly financial information. And in the past, I've gotten the data analyst tool to, do a simple regression or whatever to just carry the forecast out. But with 4.0, I was actually able to get it to do some more complex forecasting. It in one shot did a Sarima forecast. It deseasonalized, detrended, did that full seasonal auto-regressive integrated moving average. I think I got that right. Sarima forecast, which was much more accurate than regression. And then I got it to do, 3 different scenarios. And then I got it to run Monte Carlo simulations, all direct inline. So it wasn't like I was getting it to write to Python. I was going in another application. It was doing this right there. So that was the 4.0, I think, kind of quietly went under the radar for me. But when I saw it doing that all in one shot accurately, I was like, okay, now we're starting to see some more practical use cases for this. Nicolas, Gabriela, have you seen uses that you've kind of been blown away with recently?
I think it's very similar to what Christian mentioned. 3 years ago, actually, or maybe 4, I was working for a different employer, and there we had tons amount of data, like our Excel sheets and spreadsheets will collapse because of the amount of data that we had. And obviously running that a forecast or even creating a budget for 4 different products, it was quite a challenge. And therefore, like we even tried to look for solutions in the market, but really we couldn't find the one that would fit for all of us. And that's why when we changed completely to running like our forecast into like using a collab, so it's like a Jupyter notebook, but on Google Drive. And then we were able to automate all of our kind of data ingestion into directly to a collab notebook, run there our forecast. And then we just did a small integration of the consolidated version into a spreadsheet. So we would be able to see it, okay, month by month, we would do then like a variance analysis and so on. So I would say that it has been one of the most successful use cases, as we were able to achieve like an accuracy of 99%. So for a 12-month period. So that was one of the biggest use cases so far.
How about you, Nicolas?
I had the chance actually to talk with the OpenAI team and their finance team. And what was interesting is when I talked with them, they explained me that they had to go from a business doing, I think, 20 or 200 million annual revenue in 2022 to 2 billion in 2023. So if you see the graph is like, and their team, they could not keep up with the pace of the growth. So they had to grow with the members, but there was too much work. What they did is they hired robots and they didn't hire them. They actually created those robots. So two type of business cases for these robots. One is a bit more what Christian and Gabriela explained. So creating Python script that will do the work that normally humans do. And even though they are in OpenAI and they have access to the LLM, they will not create that inside the model because for 3 reasons. The first one, it's not scalable because you cannot you have token limits and you cannot run a discussion or a chat for each of the operations. Second one, you cannot actually audit it. So if somebody comes after you and then look at the work, then it's not possible to see what happened, is the black box, even if you have the code written in the discussion. And the third one is still, they didn't want all of the data in the model and to be trained because they didn't want to put it all of the models, or like I would say another company, even though it's OpenAI, you don't want maybe all of your data there. And so for these 3 reasons, that's why it's not good to do all of your competitions there. And the second one is actually a chatbot for all of the questions they receive. So for all of the questions they get on, so it's more the accounting department, but on travel policies, reimbursements, all of the things, or how to categorize expenses, they created a chatbot to answer all of the questions. And like this, they could filter down to only a few questions per day rather than 100 of questions from all of the new OpenAI employees.
And creating these chatbots, I mean, they're obviously you can customize and use the assistants on the back end, but I think, and I don't want to be a homer for one LLM over another, but the GPTs from OpenAI that you can build yourself, not GPT as in generative. They're terrible at naming things at OpenAI, so they call them GPTs, but these are chatbots that you can build with no coding, and these are. To your point there, these are great tools if you have, internal documentation, assuming you're on the enterprise or team account where, you know that your documentation is secure, where you can build these GPTs with no coding. So you could make your customer service chatbot, your FP&A Q&A chatbot or whatever. And these are the democratization of these tools is that you don't have to be able to write Python to do it. These are very automated, easy tools to make. So definitely something worth. Yeah.
If you are using Google, if you have a contract with Google or Amazon or Microsoft, they already have that as well. So GPT is the famous one because we are so used to it. But I think Copilot now, since last week, they have the same user interface where you just chat to create your own mini assistant, and all of the others, big ones, have that. So I will also advise for people who are saying, oh, but my company doesn't have a contract with OpenAI, and until they have one, and maybe they will never have one, where do I start? First, look actually, what is your company using? If you have a contract with Microsoft Azure, and I'm not affiliated with them, but you can do so much more already just with that. Or same with Amazon Web Services, same with Google. So just look at that first. And if you don't have the money for it, there is a lot of small alternatives that don't cost much.
If people, so the 50% roughly who have not used GPT or are not using it in their work, I always think don't start just uploading your company's financial data straight into one of these LLMs. Start with just interact with it. Ask it, super benign questions. Just understand sort of the capabilities. Or I always say, take some public company financial data that's already out there and put that in and play around with it. I think people, that sort of, remember the other poll where it was, lack of understanding of what's out there. I think the first thing people can do is just start interacting with it. Don't worry about solving your work problems right now. Just understand what's working. And I think another part of that is you have to also kind of learn a little bit. I'm not saying you've got to become a developer or a data scientist, but you do need to, if you're going to be trusting this tool or interacting with it, you do need to understand that it's different than asking a magic 8-ball a question and shaking it up and seeing what your answer is. You need to understand roughly how is the LLM generating this content. And I think it goes back to that, what I was saying about the problems with Google in their web search. We forget because it's easy to anthropomorphize these models, but it's easy to forget they don't actually have any knowledge of their own. They've read, the entire internet, but they're spitting stuff out sort of in a statistical probability way. So that's why human in the loop, if you know how to prompt it and get the right information and know how to sift through and know, I don't need to be eating rocks, or I don't trust this amortization table, or whatever it is, it still can be a powerful tool. And I think, maybe that's a good point to transition into. Let's go to our next poll question. And this is maybe where we'll drill into some more specifics after this. But the next poll question is, which FP&A processes do you think you could use AI's help with? So we've got budgeting, reporting, and analysis are the three categories here. Obviously, a million more, but we're going to try to keep it into a range here with what we as FP&A professionals do. Gabriela, what do you think? What's the low-hanging fruit out of these three, do you think?
Reporting. I would say on the data cleaning side, on consolidation, there is a huge use case.
Yeah. Christian, what do you think?
My favorite one, to be fair, is the analysis part. So, because it's not just, let's say, describing what the data is having, like when you really report and so on, but AI really can help to improve the financial performance of your company via these more like prescriptive analytics, let's say.
Nicolas?
Yeah, I will go with analysis because if you have the possibility to give data that you don't have time or don't have the volume or capacity to analyze, you can get the help of AI. But what Gabriela says, actually what people want is first reporting, because they spend so much time on reporting that all of the questions we get is not, oh, how can I analyze better my data? The first thing, how can I just make a reporting and then I can work analyzing? And the thing is, because what I said at the beginning is your AI tools that you are using, so if it's an LLM or if you are in Copilot for Excel, the thing is not connected to anything. So reporting is getting your data, or actually getting a lot of different data sources to go inside one framework, either your management reporting or your legal reporting. And this has a model and the data needs to fit inside it. And AI cannot do the integration for you because it doesn't have access. Maybe like in the future, it will be able to write the code to do all of the APIs integrations to put it inside, but it needs that somebody let that happen. And you need to have like a Python, I would say like orchestra behind that will do all of these APIs until you have the final output inside Excel or PDF file.
All right, well, let's take a look at our poll results here and see what everybody said. So analysis, 77%, reporting 57, budgeting 53. And it's, I think that really I would want to just check all three, but in selecting one, Nicolas, to your point on reporting, I think about all the Excel models over the years that I've had where you've got, you get your GL data at the end of the close cycle, and you've got your index match or your VLOOKUPs or whatever you're doing to like pull it back in, and like just the amount of time that just goes in getting the data from raw data into a management report, into your legal reporting, whatever it is. You're not adding value there. You're formatting, and it's frustrating. But if you, with AI, that sort of the promise of it is if you can automate that task, and then you spend more time in the actual value add of providing some strategic insight to it, that's where FP&A can really start to add value. And I think that this probably is a great transition into the next section that we wanted to talk about, which is practical advice and best practices. And Nicolas, if you could maybe get us started with where most people are right now. Yeah, this all sounds cool. I don't know where to get started. So if I'm listening to this right now and I'm thinking, okay, yes, I want to start bringing AI into my shop, what's the first thing I do? What are the steps I follow to start being able to use AI in my processes?
I actually divide that based on what is the current state of your company, because a lot of things that we can do with a small company, you cannot do at a big company, and vice versa. So let's start first. Can you see my screen, all of you?
Yep.
So I would say that if you are a small company, meaning 0 to 1,000, even 1,000 starts to be big, but I had to rank and to choose. So everything that you can do for a small one, so I will repeat myself, for a small one, normally you can do that for medium and large company as well. But if you are a large company, you have much more means than small one. So that's why I segmented this way. So for a small one, I will start by making everybody educated on what is possible to do with the generic tools. Because there is no need to go and buy something. There is no need to bring a consultant. You don't have money. You want to have a result first. So you need to educate your own people on using generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini. Then you need to look at, for example, and that's just an example on Power BI, there are already AI functions inside the tools you are using today. And in Power BI, you can ask questions and get a report for you if you ask the questions the right way. Same in Copilot for Excel, same in PowerPoint. So that's an example, but this is the way to use AI in FP&A. Then the third way, we talked a lot today about Python, but for me, it was really 2023 was ChatGPT, the tool to learn, and Gemini and the other ones, but LLMs. 2024 is Python, because this is how you are going to break the barrier of leveraging AI for your business, because you cannot count on only external tool, and Python is something you can use on your own environment with your own data, and that you can do everything with it, because you can automate. For example, you can consolidate 100 files in one file in just one line of code. You can create a heat map analysis for a cohort, which is really hard to do in Excel. in Python is also just one line of code. You can do forecasting with machine learning, really simple as well, like you explained also, Glenn. And all of this in your own environment without any problem of confidentiality of data and also scalability problems. Then if you are a medium company, so you start to have enough volume, you start to have also money. So you can start investing in native tools, for example, in your accounting or even in FP&A, to have those tools that already work with AI algorithm. So either OCR to digitalize your processes, either NLP to ask questions on your data. So you can invest on those tools. And on my LinkedIn profile, I made a map of the 100 AI finance tools, so you can have a look. This one, I wanted to change that, but still the same. But the third one, on automation, you can bring automation where, for example, when you need to collaborate with a lot of departments, well, instead of you being the person who goes to all of the people analyzing the emails, combining all of the output, you can automate that with automation tools. Same if you need to send reports to other people, either you create, I'll say, a dashboard that you can have on demand, or you automate this. And then the third part is where, for large companies, you can invest money. You can bring external teams and build your own stuff. So you can start to have your own AI models, which are basically 99% GPTs plus your data and your fine tuning. And that's where I've seen companies starting to do that, like Hugo Boss and other companies. They already have their own ChatGPT. They didn't start in finance yet, but they start to feed up, for example, with the onboarding for HR or for IT problems. You can ask a question and you have all of the IT help guide inside your ChatGPT. Then the second one, you can create your own forecasting models, because if you are that big, then you have a lot of historical data. You have also probably a lot of macroeconomic dependency, because if you are a big company, you are probably selling to a lot of the world. And the third one, like I explained with OpenAI, you can create your own chatbots. So those are segmenting like this. It's the way I will say to start small, even if you are like, even if you are in a big company, but you want to start like a small company and then go up the ladder. And for everybody, just quickly, if you don't know where to start, we did with Christian like AI maturity assessment. So I will put the link also inside the chat, but you can see here where you are inside your AI readiness and use this questionnaire to do that.
Right. And I think a big part of AI maturity, you can't even really talk AI maturity until you talk data maturity. And I'm sure you suss that out in your assessment as well. But it's, we've been talking about digital transformation for 30 years now. And and there are still companies who are kind of lagging on that. But if there ever has been a time where it's, you're banging on the drum of get your data house in order, it's now, because you're not going to be able to use any of this. If you've got garbage data, then AI won't work for you. On the implementation of AI, and I think Gabriela and Christian, I want to ask this same question to you, but from two different perspectives. And Gabriela, we'll start with you. I wonder, and thinking, with what you're doing with Tabs and with what other companies are doing out there, whether it's Datarails or Oracle or whoever, like for a lot of businesses, if you don't, going back to that initial survey question of, not having expertise in-house, I think for a lot of people, their first exposure with AI is going to come from the software, from the SaaS tools that they're using. It's going to be incorporated in that, and it's not going to be something that you build in-house. So if you could tell me about, what users can expect to start seeing in these AI-powered tools, or maybe AI-enhanced tools. Maybe it's something they're already using, but it's getting new AI functionality. I mean, how do you think that will find its way into people's workflows using third-party software?
I think also or the most common use case is like seeing more chat robots that you are able to chat with them and ask them to do like a report or I need to clean up this data. Can you remove the title? Can you add here and there? But I would actually or my way of how to really implement AI would be to start with a problem. Like, for example, if we really want to automate something or improve something, let's just start with the problem. And from there, we can see if actually AI is the best way to do it, because in many use cases, it could be that it's a collaboration issue. So then we need to completely use different tools. So for people out there, I would really like them to think about what are like the biggest pain points. And then like if AI makes sense to take it, like for example, build it in-house. To build it like in-house AI, it requires a lot of like IT work and software development work. So it would be a huge investment for a company. So usually that's where you will outsource to different softwares. And then I would also like for finance, as we have this huge knowledge gap of not knowing how to use Python or to code, then I think no code solutions with a chat interface that is easy to implement and to use, and especially that they care about the data quality. I think that's kind of the way to go.
Makes perfect sense. And Christian, I think you and I are kindred spirits here in this. And I think a lot of my, like, I never wanted to be a coder. I didn't want to be a developer, but I wanted to get stuff done. And I knew back of the house, if I asked something from IT or the dev shop or whatever, we were always kicked to the back of the line. And so it's like, well, if I wanted to get stuff done, I'm doing citizen coding. I'm running some bizarro database on my laptop instead of on a server. I'm doing this citizen coding. And I not that I'm trying to advise anyone on the show to do this, but I think maybe I'm going to throw this out on two levels. One is the warning of two companies. You need to have an AI policy in place and make it very clear what it is. And I'm not saying it needs to be locked down draconian, but you need to understand what's out there, how the people are going to use it. Because I think what you're seeing right now is for companies that don't have a policy and don't have a handle on this, then they may tell their employees nobody's allowed to use AI for anything. Well, a big percent of your workforce is going to become like secret cyborgs who are using it on the side, probably in dangerous ways. But if you do have a policy and you've given them a playground, whether it's an Azure environment or enterprise or whatever, whatever the environment is, there are some things, because I do believe that the way AI is not going to be rolled out like dropping in a new ERP system. It's going to be rolled out, give the employees access, let them full democratization, let them find use cases for it. So if you're in a company right now and you're trying to figure out ways to use AI, what's your approach to using these tools at this point?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll start first with the part of the getting stuff done that you mentioned, that it's very important. So how can, let's say, people start, right? Like, let me share my screen quickly and I prepare something for all of you. So I always advise to get started, as you mentioned, like not with your real data, but with data public available. So you can just go to Yahoo Finance, let's say, choose any company in there. You can download already like balance sheet, income statement, and so on. But I just click here and then download this one, and then go to ChatGPT 4.0 and just start with like something very simple. Act as a management consultant and analyze this data from an FP&A lens. I uploaded already there where I downloaded from the public available domain, and it will start analyzing. So already in here, but for people to start seeing, it will start generating all of these different like analysis, like closing over price, volume over time, and so on and so on. So how do you take this with your real data? After it does this analysis, you just need to ask then for the actual Python code and so on, explain it where you're using it, and then get the code. And then from there, then you go to actual Google Colab, that is kind of like the Google Docs of programming. It's very easy to use. You don't need to download anything. And you just need to copy the code in there. And then right now, I uploaded exactly the same data, but the idea of this is that you can upload in this environment your own data and then create exactly the same graphs and so on. So also like similar, like I'll do it quite quickly in here, but for people, if you want to follow along and so on, I'll also drop down a quick link in the chat. where I basically give this type of example and all of these other examples to start with this like AI literacy in finance and FP&A.
That's great. And I'm thinking about, had I not been, neck deep in all this stuff for years, people can see that and it looks like this is magic. I don't even understand what just happened. He just grabbed a spreadsheet and uploaded it, and immediately we had all these charts and everything. And that's why I say to people, just like you said, take public company data, plug it in, see what it does. There was actually a paper, I'm sure you guys have all seen it, a paper that came out a couple of weeks ago, around May 20th, about how these LLMs have proven in many instances better than humans in FP&A. And that paper, I think it was called Using Large Language Models for Financial Analysis. It was something unexciting like that, but it came with, they had built their own custom GPT, and it's actually a chain of thought prompt. And I've built a million of these GPTs, and I know you guys have too, but this one actually did a really nice job prompting, and I've tested it with several public company financials. And I think, whether you're using a GPT or just the straight plugging it in there, I think if people haven't had this moment already, that's going to be a real eye-opening kind of light bulb goes off moment for everyone. So I think, to your point, get the public data, get out there, play around with it. And we're already coming at to the end of the show here, and I feel like, 1 hour is barely enough. We've only scratched the surface, and I know this group, we could talk for another 6-7 hours without taking a breath and still have a lot to go. I do want to see if there's any questions that have come through and that we haven't answered. And while I'm looking through these, let's maybe take a minute here. Any closing thoughts, Nicolas? What anything you'd like to leave people with as they walk away today?
Yeah. So when you see the example you just said with this paper, when you see what ChatGPT 4.0 is doing with advanced analytics, I'm surprised myself, even though I was looking at everything so closely, how fast it is working now and how well with also financials or figures and computations. And I think it's because we all need at the end that it's when you do a calculation that it works. And at the beginning, all of the marketers were taking over GPTs because you could create and do creative content, so write, because GPTs are excellent and LLMs to write. But the real problems are solved also with figures and not only with words. And because of all of the backlash that happened of all of these funny answers with numbers, I think now you can see that the teams, the engineers behind that, they took that seriously. I think they are running a mini step in between with where you have validated codes that can run. So, and that's how you should do it as well. If you build your own model, you should not let the user build their own query. So imagine just SQL or Excel functions. You should have a validated set of queries for those type of software, and then you just map it. And I think that's what they did now. So that's why it works so well. The next step will be just APIs. When your LLMs will have the authorization to go in your Salesforce, in your SAP, in your QuickBooks, and we'll just say, okay, based on the first 6 months, here is your performance, then we'll reach really another level. And I think I don't see any reason why we'll not go there. The ChatGPT 5 or whatever they want to call it is with APIs, and it will be the next big change.
All right, we're going to try to stick the landing here. Gabriela, some final thoughts you'd like to leave people with as we go?
I will encourage everyone to go and try the different tools. I think we need to learn, and everyone is learning right now. So I will just encourage everyone to go and try many different tools. And yeah, we all of us start from somewhere. So it's just a matter of time.
And Christian, last thoughts?
Yeah, I would say that for everyone, don't try to do new things with all of the different AI tools that are out there, experiment, but also try to invest in learning. Like there are a lot of great content on there, great courses that if you do some course of, let's say, advanced financial analysis with ChatGPT or for Microsoft Copilot and so on, for finance and for FP&A specifically, then you will really change the way you see all of these tools, because they can help you a lot in FP&A.
Great. And one question that just came in, I do want to try to hit it before we go. Any general guidance as to which AI to use for FP&A? Copilot? I think Copilot's getting there. To my mind, it's not completely there yet. I really think the data analysis tool in ChatGPT is the best tool to use for, assuming, again, that you're in that Teams environment, the paid environment where your data is not being used for training, not to go into the free environment. Well, here we go. An hour has quickly gone by. So thank you everyone for joining. This is the first session for FP&A Con 2024. This was a session on AI and FP&A hype versus reality. Thank you to the audience, and thank you to our panelists, Gabriela, Christian, and Nicolas. Thank you all for your great insights.